The first AT&T record, we called it today the 48-hour AT&T record, of Bryan's call detail record. If you were to take that and do an analysis on a call detail record, how long would that be?
Depends on the analysis, so I'll qualify that answer with looking at what was put into the second warrant. That shows us at least parts of that analysis to include the route that was identified. To do it reliably and feel comfortable that I'm accurate, 3 hours, and that's if you know what you're doing and you have all the tools at your disposal. Arguably, you could spend half a day of work very easily.
To do that, do you just take these records, print and copy, and know what's on there, or do you have to do something with those records?
You have to use some type of a mapping platform software, and you would take the digital copy, which is typically a text file, you would import it into that program, which would then map everything. But if I'm going to use those results, search warrant affidavit, for example, there's a process that I'm going to go through to confirm the accuracy, because in theory, if I'm wrong, the entire linchpin of that case is now hinged on this affidavit that I wrote. So before I commit to swearing out to an affidavit, hey, this is what the phone is doing, X, Y, and Z, there's a further process of just mapping it to validate it. In this case, there's a lot of time distance measurements that need to be performed that can be extremely time consuming. There's some ulterior issues that come up with how that phone is interacting with other cell sites that needs to be analyzed. Again, saying that a very qualified, competent investigator spending half a day just coming up with that basic summary is very reasonable.
In that half a day, you would put that record into a computer program and the map would be produced?
Correct.
In your experience with working with AT&T records, is it common or uncommon to have two warrants, one that relies on the content of the first in the same day?
It's not uncommon to see a small time period that produces results that would increase the desire, the need for a bigger time period of records. Seeing that entire process happen twice in the same day is extremely rare on an Apple platform.
Okay. Would that be consistent with this cast draft that we heard about earlier?
It's my opinion that Corporal Payne probably is misusing some terms there. I don't see any possibility of the FBI CAS team producing a CAS draft report on the 23rd. I think he's probably mistaken that he saw some type of CAS work product, which would be this map, before they export all those results into a report. So I believe that he probably saw some mapping through a mapping platform. It would really surprise me if there was a physical report. It would be completely out of the picture. I had a concern since the very first day I saw the CAS draft report that there are significant errors in the drive testing. It was before I even saw the drive testing. I can look at the coverage areas and I can tell you they're wrong. So, yes, it's not a concern that they're wrong. People make mistakes, we can fix things. It's a concern that I still don't have the source data that any expert, not just myself, but anybody can sit down and look at it and say, okay, I see what's happening here. Here's how we fix this. Unfortunately, that mistake has a ripple effect. And I'm seeing multiple errors that are happening as a result. So that's why this data is important, is we've reached a point that we need to determine, is this just human error? Is this accidental? Is it intentional? Is there other things at play here that's changing this narrative to where there's clearly some manipulation of the original data?
The state is getting, and we are desperate to find out the timeline in this case and when the state knew what and when. There's no question that motions to suppress are coming. Motions to suppress are coming on warrants. And whether or not those motions to suppress are based on Frank's material because misrepresentations are made depends on the timeline. So if there's a representation made in a warrant that things happen in a certain way, if we are able to look at the timeline and say, we know that the state knew this when, that gives us an answer on whether or not the suppression issue includes a truthful statement in the affidavit.